Let's do it live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Ed Carbajal. Ed, what's up, brother? How's it going?
What's good, my man? It's March is a pretty crazy month for the fight game. So another pay-per-view. I can't remember the last time they doubled up on pay-per-views. I feel like maybe it wasn't that long ago, but maybe it was. The way the UFC goes these days, they look fry my brain a little bit. Keep trying to keep in track with what they're doing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got the pay-per-view. We're coming off of a big
Mm-hmm.
Bellator event past weekend. We're coming off of Dashvili domination over Peter Yan.
Yeah, that was a great
Um,
fight. I actually got to see that, even though it was on ESPN Plus. I didn't know that they show those ESPN Plus cards inside of Buffalo Wild Wings. So
I did not know that either.
I
I
didn't.
wonder.
I was like, if that wasn't advertised. I don't know if they were supposed to do it, but they did it, and I watched it and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was the main event was kind of as we spoke quickly about it, but it was a lot of spam and takedowns and
Mm-hmm.
setting record for takedown attempts and threw threw Peter Yan off of his game and kind of
Yeah,
left him in a limbo state right now after three losses in a row. Uh, Actually, four losses in a row. Um,
I don't know what Mirab Devashvili does for like his cardio or whatever he's taking or whatever, if he's on any supplements that I need to know about, because whatever he's doing I want to do it, because literally the guy was on fire and then he was dancing after the event, and it's like, where do you have that energy? I know he's younger than us and stuff, but I'm just like, holy shit, man, that's envious cardio from
I can't even think of anybody who comes close to that. To be honest with you, I mean,
that.
obviously there's some guys who are cardio kings, but I can't think of anybody who just
Hmm.
is I mean, he doesn't give you a second to even think about what you're doing in that cage. He's on your ass so quick, and I mean, it's it's maybe not the most exciting fight style. I mean, let's be honest, completing like 7 of 50 takedowns, but it sure
Yeah.
as hell is effective, and it's
I
definitely
I
something we've
was
never seen.
I was dialed in on it. I mean, I enjoy watching that stuff. I know not every, like you said, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I was just like, I knew he was gonna win. I had him picked to win, but I was surprised that he was the underdog actually. But I just the constant go go go. I mean, that's got to be like just soul crushing when you're in the middle of the fight. I mean, Jan probably, those guys like at that level don't think about quitting, but he definitely probably was like, holy shit, how many more rounds of this is there? He probably, it's one of those things where you go. I actually, there's a dude I train with. He actually subscribes to the YouTube channel, Lauren. He jogged for 7 hours straight one day. So when he comes to train with us in the gym, like like he could do like, I don't know how many matches, and he'll be just as energized from the beginning of the class as he was to the end of the open mat portion, because his cardio is so good. And that's just, I actually said to him last week, and I was like, you know what, I got to start going with you first. I can't be going with you last when I'm already one or two matches in, because my old ass lungs, and I'm asthmatic, can't take it. But yeah, it's crazy, dude. That literally was like that should have been more better advertised, that event, because something else went on that night that seemed to take up the UFC's advertising funds. But
I had forgot about that. Actually, I watched it. I'm not gonna lie. I watched some of it. I watched most of it because there wasn't really anything else on that other. With everything going early. You know,
mhm.
uh, Bellator was Friday night. Not to deep dive too much into it, but Shabili and Nurmagomedov advance in the tournament. Nurmagomedov defends his title against Vincent Henderson. Love to see Usman
Oh
getting
yeah.
that hype. We're starting to see that a little bit more with Bellator. I think fans are starting to have their eyes opened a little bit, or other promotions in general. I mean, we had the big when BKFC had their Knucklemania thing, the Richmond Hunt fight, kind of got a bunch of eyes on that, and it's been nice to see some of these media guys who
Hmm.
tend to really only lean one direction uh, give
Yeah.
props and credit to where credit is due to some of these guys.
Hmm.
And seeing Nurmagomedov, Usman get get talked about it in a way that like he is definitely up there and could be in theory competitive with all these guys in the UFC is
Yeah.
breath of fresh air to people like me and you who spend time watching all these other organizations and really have a good eye for talent and can appreciate when we're seeing something that
Yeah.
is greatness. It doesn't have
Hmm.
UFC for it to be greatness. There's a talent level there, and there's a state, they say there's levels to this. I don't know who started that crap, but whoever did, he's on one of these levels that you know,
Yeah.
Anderson's an older guy, but you still, even at his age, you don't see people doing to Benson Henderson what this dude did. I mean, he throws a question mark quick kick.
Hmm.
He's like he's Glabe Fatosa from old school K1 days, throwing the question mark kick, and then he chokes out Benson Henderson, which is,
Yeah.
I
Not
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 how
an
I would
easy
have
thing to
thought.
do.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. But I mean, I could have saw TKO. I think that's probably even kind of what I picked. But um, to be a finish through submission was crazy.
Yeah.
Linton Vassell looked outstanding. I mean, I think that
I
was
know that was unexpected, and then I actually wrote an article about the Yamauchi and Page Venom Page, 26 seconds. He clips his kneecap, a patellar tendon loose, which is unheard of. I mean, that guy. It's funny that we're talking about that because when we had Kevin Nicholson on, I had mentioned there's a there's a guy on Twitter that I think he does videos on YouTube too. Is Abisi's his last name, but for me, the guy that I saw first before BC jumped on the bandwagon, Dr. Brian Sutterer, who does a lot of stuff for all sports. I mean, if you're not watching that guy's YouTube channel, you need to, especially if you're into, stick and ball stuff, the Big Four, whatever. Any significant injury that you've seen, he does something on, and literally, the main card wasn't even over. He already had his breakdown out, and it wasn't official about the patellar tendon rupture until the post-fight press conference. But Brian Sutterer called it in his video. He's like, that looks like a patellar rupture because of the way the kneecap rolled up. And he talks about how the kneecap works like a rubber band stretching. So when it gets ruptured, it pulls up to the higher quadrant because of the muscle groups that are up there. It was really a really great breakdown, and I just love the speed at which he did it with good production value and everything. So I wrote the article with the clips over at mymmanews.com if you want to check that out from last weekend. But talking about both events, I mean, we kind of brushed past it when we shouldn't. Both at the UFC and at the Bellator. Benson Henderson hung up the gloves, retired, and the UFC event, Sun Xiao also retired after his loss. So I think it was weird that we had two, notable fighters from both organizations retire, and I mean we're seeing the guard change so fast in this sport, man. It just eats up the older dudes, even when they're not that old.
yeah, no, it's obviously Benson Henderson had a Hall of Fame level career. Be cool to see the UFC acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
He defended the belt 3 times, lightweight champion,
Mm-hmm.
WEC champion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me like that's
Yeah, he's due.
he's due for, and it's not going to happen probably this year or next year, but a couple years down the line when
Mm-hmm.
all the smoke settles, it would be sure as would be nice to see him recognized by the UFC for the efforts that he put out and entertainment he gave everybody for damn near 20 years. With that said, we move up towards this week. Also, a quick little note, and we're going to say at the end of the show, we don't want anybody necessarily tuning out, but Invicta Fighting Championships doing their thing tonight, Invicta 52. YouTube channel, I believe Access TV also, if you get that
Mm-hmm.
channel on your cable package. So that's starting, I believe, in about 15, 20 minutes, give or take. So hopefully when we get done with this, we'll be jumping onto that. But that's your entertainment for tonight after this podcast. That leaves us quick little note also this Friday night before we get to the UFC pay-per-view. It is BKFC 38, so they keep doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Strauss, a familiar name, former Bellator champion,
Mm-hmm.
featherweight champion, a guy who had 4, maybe 5 fights with Pitbull.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
I think 4. I think 4. In fact,
Yeah.
I think you sent me the poster for their last one, so I have to
Oh, the one that was out here, yeah, in
Yeah,
Connecticut. Yeah.
4. There it is. Strauss versus Pitbull 4. So, he a guy who went back and forth with Pitbull in the Bellator cage. He makes his BKFC debut against their former champion Dat Win. Um, Isaac Doolittle co-main event, a guy who's had a lot of success in BKFC. He's coming off a loss to Mike Richmond for an interim title. And Francisco Ricci also is on the card, who's coming off of a loss to Dave Mundell in another title fight. So good card somewhere in Florida. I'm not real sure where Delray Beach is. Um, but BKFC doing their thing, keeping it going, and then they follow up again with an event next week. But now let's get to the main event, the main show for this week. UFC London, UFC 286, the trilogy fight that I don't think anybody really expected until about 4 minutes and 2 seconds into the fifth round of their previous fight, Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, and then the co-main event that's got Ed's blood moving throughout his body. Justin
I
Gaethje versus
literally,
Rafael
literally didn't
Fiziev.
know who else was on this card after they announced this fight. So,
But the whole main card, solid main card, not the best London show that they've ever put on, but some names and
early
definitely
card
definitely
too
some good
for
fight.
folks not knowing because of the location in the UK. They're doing, I believe, the first fight starts at 1 o'clock. Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern. So it's an early Saturday card, and uh, again, I mean it's pay-per-view worthy in my opinion with the names that are on here. If you're watching some of these fighters come up, um, but let's jump into the main card so we'll start at the bottom before I go crazy talking about Justin Gaethje. Uh, uh, First fight opening up the pay-per-view: Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. I feel like we haven't seen Vettori fight in a while.
Yeah, he seems like he goes through phases where he seems like he's on every card for about a month and then kind of disappears. He is coming off of a loss to Robert Whitaker. Let's see, 9. So yeah, 6 months ago, a little over 6 months. So definitely been a while. That prior to the loss to Whitaker, he beat Paulo Costa. Um, Dolidze, how you say his name?
Dolidze, yeah.
Dolidze. Uh, he's been on a nice heck of a run since he's come over to the UFC. He did suffer one loss, but other than that, he is 6-1 in the UFC. Last win over Jack Hermanson, second round, TKO. It's a tough fight to pick. I kind of am leaning towards Dolidze. Vittori's been one of those things for me that when I see him, I'm not like super impressed, but he picked up some big wins along the way. Um, but I could see him getting punched out in this fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if he kind of reached his peak with the title fight against Adesanya. I think that was 263 when they had that fight.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I mean, if you look
I
at
kind
these,
of, yeah. It's the way I kind of see it. I think he might get beat up a bit, and I think TKO. I don't know,
yeah,
he's pretty durable. I don't know if he'll get finished in a 3-round fight, but I think he's gonna get hit, gonna get beat up a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these. We know these stats on the UFC.com website where we're looking at this on. They're not always up to date, but by the win by looks like Dolidze has the advantage by winning by KO TKO. So that's you and I are on the same page with that one. So moving on to the second fight on the main card, flyweight bout between Jennifer Maia and Casey O'Neill.
Yeah, Eileen. I know Jennifer Maia's had a run. She was the Invicta champion.
Mm-hmm.
She did get a title. I believe she did. Also, she fought Shevchenko, correct? Or did she not quite? I feel like I'm missing. Oh yeah, she got to Shevchenko. So she did have one. Eventually got to a title fight. Didn't go her way. She's lost 3 out of her last 5. Casey O'Neill seems like one of the new, cool new toys in town. 9-0, doing damage against some veterans,
Mm-hmm.
Matafari and so on. I think Casey O'Neill outworks her and especially in her home country. I think she picks up a decision win here, and goes to continues to be undefeated and one of the brighter prospects at 125.
Yeah, I mean that's why they're there because they're trying to, I feel like they wanted to put Patty on this card if he wasn't recovering from his foot getting operated on. Otherwise, that would have happened. So I cannot disagree with you on that one. And moving on to the welterweight bout, middle fight of the main card, Gunnar Nelson versus Brian Barberina. Um, I'm, what are we looking at here? I, Nelson's from Iceland. He's my height, 171. Um, I know. Every time it was funny. I was talking about Brian Barberina today because he was the guy that ended the Sage Northcutt hype. So every time he fights, I kind of lean towards him just because I always remember that performance. I know he's
Yeah,
coming off a loss, but still.
yeah, it was UFC 200 when people
Mm.
thought he was being fed to Northcutt coming into the
Mhm.
UFC. Um, I'm picking Barberina. I think he's too tough. I think he'll avoid the submissions, and I think he'll end up getting on top of Nelson, and I think he'll do damage. I mean, he's coming off a loss to Dos Anjos. I don't think that that's any kind of, I don't see that necessarily as a negative. I mean, obviously it's a loss, but Dos Anjos is a Hall of Famer. And he's coming off of, prior to that, he had wins over Matt Brown and Robbie Lawler. Obviously, being submitted by Dos Anjos is uh, a little bit something to be nervous about when he's going in there with Gunnar Nelson or Gunnar Nelson. Uh,
What? Yeah.
but I I always pick against Barberina and he always wins. So I'm gonna go with him this time, to land something big.
That's funny.
While perhaps Nelson's fishing for some kind of submission. Um, I'll take Barberina to just to be durable enough to kind of beat him up and win a scrap.
Yeah. Well, so far we're picking the same. I don't know about this one because I don't feel like you're not on the Justin Gaethje hype train as I am. As he said, everyone should be at today's media day. But Justin Gaethje co-main event versus Rafael Fiziev. Um, plus 195 on the odds for Justin Gaethje. He's already got the ingredients of why people should pick him to win because he's usually the underdog. And then I was actually looking at this fight earlier today. If you look at these stats on here, anyway, the win Justin Gaethje wins more by KO TKO 83% versus Fiziev 67%. His takedown defense is pretty decent for other folks wrestling style takedowns anyway. Not if you hook him up and trip him up like Khabib did, or bait him into knocking himself down or whatever he did against Oliveira. But I blame that to his maniacal way of his fighting. Um, I'm definitely leaning towards Gaethje. No surprise there. Um, yeah, Justin Gaethje knockout TKO probably in the third round. I don't see it happening early.
See, this one hurts because I don't want to pick against Justin Gagey. I love the guy. Um, I mean, and in a world where you just mentioned like the old guard changing of the guard,
Mhm.
like he's about, he's not old school. He's not in that generation that's
Mm-mm.
leaving now, but I feel like he's been around forever, and I feel like he's entertained us forever. Um, and I think each war seems like it's just been, a year in itself. Every battle he's gone in there, and it seems like it's just been nonstop for forever. Um, with that said, I think Fiziev offers him a lot of trouble with his technical striking.
Mm.
And obvious. Let me put it this way: if Gagey lands a bomb, Fiziev's going out. We know that. We
Yeah.
know that, but I don't know if he's going to be able to land that bomb before he takes enough shots to the head with straight
Mm.
punches that it slows him down. And as much as we love the wars, we've talked about it ad
Yeah.
nauseum that it takes something away every time
Yeah.
something. It's a video game. Every time a click goes down,
Yeah. Yeah.
you go
Yeah.
from a 99 overall, and after 5 fights down, you're down to 96 overall, and then you're a 92 overall. And um, it's just natural progression of aging and and the time you've left in that cage.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna pick Fiziev. I don't want to. I don't want to, but I gotta pick him. Plus, it changes up our picks because I have a feeling we're gonna have the same main event choice. Um,
Yeah, we are.
so at least we'll have one different one here. I mean, I'd love to see what the odds of a sub are, considering that you're looking at 4% and 8%.
Maybe they don't have it. Hold on, let's see the no. Where's the? Oh, they don't do that specific anymore with the odds.
Yeah, you'd have to go to a site, but I imagine it's,
Hmm.
if I'm picking
Oh
one
no,
guy
wait a
if
second.
I'm picking somebody by sub, I'm
Yeah,
still.
they don't have
I
that one.
think Gagey would be your sub because you in the back of your mind you're going, I think maybe in his later age, I mean, I don't know about you, and we'd love to see the wars, but part of me would love to see him go in there and use some wrestling. I know we talk about it every time, but it's almost become a myth at this point. Like, we don't really know how good his wrestling is. Like,
Hmm.
we just don't. We've heard about it for a decade, but like we haven't really seen it utilized. He used it some in the Palomino fights and stuff like that, going back to World
Yeah,
Series.
he
But
definitely used it more in WSOF than he has in the UFC.
I just feel like, maybe this is the fight where it kind of brings that out and it creates a new, a new old version of him where, like, all of a sudden you're a contender again because
Hmm.
you bring something else to the table. I feel like just being the big puncher, like, you might win 5 in a row, but like then that title fight comes and you lose. I mean, I just don't know if that's a successful, not title career. It's great to get paid. It's great to get bonuses, but
Hmm.
um, I don't know, man. Like you said, this is the fight of the night right here. I mean, this is
Yeah,
it, like
I didn't even know who else was fighting, and then someone reminded me earlier today. Oh, it's Leon Edwards and Usman 3, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It sucks. Like again, we're actually probably being robbed of 2 rounds in this fight because
it sucks
it's
we can't get what happened to the didn't we I felt like we had a little run there where we were getting some like 5 round co-main events.
we
Like, I
were
don't
for depending on who was on it, but I
you
guess
know,
I
I know that
mean
was the Diaz special,
yeah,
but it sure seems like that should be something that
you reserve for fights like this.
yeah. But
Yeah,
again, I mean, really, would you bet that this goes really that? I mean, I know you said the third round.
yeah. No, I just like because I know he likes to. I mean, it could happen early but the only reason I say third round because I don't, as much as I'm rooting for Gaethje, I know Fiziev ain't no slouch, and he's not somebody that he wears damage well. You know what I mean? So um, that's the only reason why I said third round. I still see KO TKO or something like that. I mean, it could happen on both sides, like you said. But I always think about when Justin Gaethje interviewed. I'm sorry, Chael Sonnen interviewed Justin Gaethje when he was still when they were all at World Series of Fighting, and he mentioned I forget how he worded it, but he was like, he's like though your fighting style, it doesn't make for a long career, and it's just always stuck with me because I'm like, here we are now. That was a while ago, and here we are now, and he's still literally fighting the same way. I don't know what happens. Trevor Whitman reeled him in when he fought Tony Ferguson from falling into that madness of just enjoying the fight and fighting smart and technically and winning. And like we haven't seen, I don't know if he lost control of his man in the corner or what happened. Because like when he fought Oliveira, I mean, he was literally throwing punches that almost swung himself off his feet,
Hmm.
and I'm just like, it's like the anticipation he gets he tastes victory is so close to him, it just distracts him from what he should be doing, and I mean it's weird because it's one of the things I like about him. So all right, anyway, moving on. You can take this one because we're both going to say the same thing
Kamaru Usman,
anyway.
Leon Edwards, champ Leon Edwards coming off of the shock of last year,
Hmm.
head kick KO over Usman. Forget the number, but I know it was in Salt Lake City. Uh, I mean, going into that fight, we were talking about how Usman was a kind of once in a generation like fighter.
Hmm.
Seemed to be almost unbeatable. Seemed to have every a step over everybody at every single at every single asset really of the game. Um, and he got snoozed. He
Yeah.
got caught kind of sleeping for a second and in a fight that he dominated essentially for the first 24 and a half minutes. And I think he comes out as a vengeance here. I think Leon Edwards is a good fighter. I don't know if he's in my mind. I don't know if he's a great fighter or not. His record wise might end up with a great record. He might end up with some really great credentials, but I don't know if, for me at least, like I don't know if there's anything like super special about the guy. He just kind of seems like a jack of all trades that manages to pick up wins, and we'll see here. I mean, if he wins this fight,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
He at that point he's now moved on from the Usman chapter, and there might be a long run of victories because it's an older division, um, but his matchups get a little bit better when you start talking about his ability to wrestle and stuff
Mm-hmm.
against some of those other guys. Um, but I think Usman dominates. And I think he comes
Yeah.
out. I'm assuming he comes out here with like the eye of the tiger and really wanting to
Mm-hmm.
avenge that. And as long as he doesn't get sloppy, but I don't even getting sloppy. Like there was nothing, like that head kick came out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if Edwards has the like tiger where like he's just gonna destroy you if you get a little bit. If it turns into a phone book fight. Like I don't know if I don't know how Edwards reacts to something like that. I
Yeah.
feel like he's way too technical and kind of timid's not the right word, but just kind of goes with the flow of the fight. And if the fight's not, I don't know how he would deal with I mean, I don't know how he wins with massive pressure because we
Mm-hmm.
saw Usman put pressure on him for 4.5 rounds, and it was extremely successful last time. So I'll take Usman. Um, it's hard for me to say finish. I don't, Usman does do a lot of decisions
Mm-hmm.
when he's not fighting essential journeymen
Yeah.
um, in title fights. So I'm gonna go with Usman 50-45.
Yeah. I
I can even see a 10-8 somewhere in there where he takes out his aggression, but he's just not able to finish the guy.
No, that's a good way to look at it because of the when they did fight, they it wasn't like you said, it was at towards the end of their fight, when the knockout happened. One thing people like Cejudo does that Triple C character so much. I don't know if people caught his when he's serious and he analyzes fights himself. One of the things he mentioned was how Usman, when he fights, he tends to when he does his movement away from stuff, he separates his hands from his head, and that's kind of how the kick happened. So I would think, given who his coach is, where he trains, and the level of competitor that he is, if that was a hole in his game, I'm pretty sure he corrected it. Especially since all this time has passed and he's probably been focusing on that. I know he did he was like a character, and in the Black Panther movie, and he had like done stuff like that, but that was just like a small part. So I don't think that's something that would have distracted him from keeping his eye on the prize of getting the belt back, especially if from someone that he beat before. The way that you said, so I don't I think, and he was winning the last fight. That's if that kick doesn't happen, he this fight wouldn't be happening. So yeah, we're on the same page there. UFC 286, early card this weekend. Obviously it's a pay-per-view, so make sure you make your arrangements to watch it however you watch it. Also, really quick, just a reminder for folks. Also this weekend, John Brumley's fight is in your neck of the woods with the Hendo Fight Night. Um, and if you could check the episode before the last one that we had him on doing the UFC 285 picks with us. So ticket information and viewing stuff is on the description of that one. Expectation Sports has 2 events this weekend. I've interviewed fighters off of both events. Check out spectationsports.com for that. And I'm trying to think what else we got going on this weekend.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
The Hendo Fight Night 11 is
Mm-hmm.
it's John talks about it during our interview, but it's streaming live via tkotix.com. I'm not sure what the pay-per-view is. It's probably $9.99, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But again, if you listen to the show and you're interested in supporting some of the amateur and younger up and coming fighters, and there's not a lot going on Saturday night, then I would I recommend checking that out. I'm gonna try to get down there. I mean, not really get down there. It's literally across the street. But I'm gonna pick up a ticket and hopefully go over there and support him
Yeah.
and run into some of the boys that we've had on this show before. So, um, best of luck to him.
Hmm.
Let's just get that out of the way. And I think that wraps it up so everybody can get to Invicta. Until then, check us out at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Edit Carb on Twitter at Carbazol, on Instagram at Carbeerzol, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as always, as mentioned for earlier, we are always brought to you by allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our video podcast, MMA news, and MMA stories. Uh, Here we go. Let's get to Invicta tonight and BKFC Friday, UFC, and then Hendo Fight Night. So that's the lineup of champions this weekend, and look forward to it all. Have a good night, Ed. Thanks for listening,
Peace.
everyone.